In this video, we will go through subscribing to the Player Accounts and Player Pages service, and take a tour of its features. We have split this video into 9 chapters so viewers can jump to a particular feature that interests them. Chapters 1 to 5 explains setting up the service. Chapter 6 goes through how a developer, as an alternative to calling the service's web API methods, can use the game's studio site to create and manage player accounts. Chapters 7 and 8 introduce player pages, a set of hosted web pages that developers can customize and their players access through a unique web address. Through these player pages, players can review their installed games, and find out more about other published games from the same developer. Player account password recovery is touched upon in chapters 3 and 5, and chapter 9 shows how those two methods can be accessed through player pages. First, we need to subscribe to the service. After a developer account has been created, we add the online player accounts and player pages service to it. Simply, click on Manage Services, add a service, then select Player Accounts and Player Pages from the drop-down menu, and click Subscribe. As with any service, once it has been subscribed to, you cannot remove it. However, you can unsubscribe. If any charges were applied, these will appear on the next invoice. While the service is unsubscribed from, its functionality will be disabled and no charges will be made against it. Before we explore the service, we should quickly highlight the link between player account login names and gamer handles. Some players like to have just one gamer name, and our services attempt to make their gamer handles the same as their player account's name. When a player account installs a game, the game service will attempt to provide an identical gamer handle to the player account login name. To help this process, you can set the default gamer handle's maximum length to be at least the same as the player account login name's length, and also make gamer handles unique within a game. Please note, if you give your players the option to change their gamer handles, then it is possible that a future player account's name may already have been used before they install the game. This will result in the service not being able to pick an identical name and will instead generate a default one, that the player can then change later. To set these properties, firstly go into the My Accounts Details page. Now click on Manage Default Game Parameters. We will set the default gamer handle's maximum length to 20, and ensure the Enforce Handle Uniqueness is checked. While we are here, we can also see that the default data type for gamer scores is set to integer. These values are defaults only, and can be changed for each game you develop. But you should always remember this link between the gamer handle and the player account name. Now we can take a tour of the Player Accounts and Player Pages services features. First, the service's parameters. On this page, we can see that the maximum length of a player account's name is 20. This is the same as the default gamer handle's maximum length. For this player account setup, we do not require a player account to verify an email address. We can leave both the external ID required and verify email address required checkboxes unticked. We do want a player to log in with a password though. And if a player forgets their password, they can answer 3 questions to redirect him to the Reset Password page. During player account registration, a player has to choose 3 from 6 possible questions, and provide answers to each. They can later change the questions and answers through their profile page on the Player Pages website. We will explore the types of questions asked later in this video. Next, we can set up the Player Pages parameter values. When the service is subscribed to, a random Player Pages site name is generated. This name is referenced in the Player Pages URL. The name can be changed to another unique string. Sometimes, you want to restrict access to the site, possibly while you are carrying out its initial setup or subsequent site changes. You restrict access by firstly setting the Disable Site flag to true. This will change the player page's home page to show the maintenance message you provide below. When disabled, the player page's site will reject all login attempts. However, you can tell the system to allow a player account to log in. You do this by setting a flag on a player account's record. For this example, we won't disable the site. Another parameter you can configure is whether to show the profile button on the player page's top menu. You may choose not to allow a player, or a user if you are developing applications, to access their profile. In that case, a player account's profile can only be maintained by the developer through this service's Manage Player Accounts pages. Other parameters we can set here are whether to show the Register button, allowing players to register through the player page's website. As the site owner, you may instead provide an alternative workflow for player account creation. If you do provide access to the Create Player page, you also have the option to show the Developer-Only checkbox. This we do not recommend for a live site. However, during development and testing, you may want to create developer test accounts instead of normal accounts, because calls made using a developer API key is not recorded for invoicing purposes. Please note, however, you can only have 3 test player accounts at any one time. If you have a game or app already published, you can provide a link to your App Store page on your player page's homepage. Player Pages generates a standard privacy policy for you, and inserts the legal contact name and legal contact email values into it. This privacy policy is accessed from a link in the footer of each page. The next item we will look at are custom fields. Custom fields are attached to player accounts and can provide additional information about a player, for example, their name. Custom fields can also be searched on to filter lists of player accounts. For example, you can create a custom field to contain the first 2 letters of a player's name. You would populate this field when you create a new player account, and this string can then be used to filter the list of accounts. As there may be thousands of player accounts, returning a dataset with thousands of rows could overwhelm a receiving application. Therefore, the system restricts the number of search rows returned to 300. Using custom fields, you can filter the results to a manageable amount. When you create a custom field, you supply a unique integer number. This value is used by the service's relevant API methods to reference a specific custom field. A custom field note describes the data stored in a custom field. We will add 2 more custom fields. Remember, custom fields are used as filters in search terms to restrict the rows returned from a search to 300 or less. We will see later in this video how we use custom fields to search for player accounts. The next feature of the player accounts and player pages service we want to look at are security questions. Let's click the Manage Security Questions button. When the service is configured to use the security questions method to recover a lost password, a player must choose and answer 3 security questions from a list of 6. On this page, you can change the text of each question to ask a different one. Simply enter a new question into the user-defined question text box, and after making all your changes, click the Save button. Your new question will appear in the list of available options when a player account chooses which questions they want to answer to recover their password. It is recommended that you only make changes to the set of questions before allowing your players to start creating their player accounts. Changing a question after players have already recorded an answer for it may lead to confusion, with players not being able to reset their passwords and having to contact you to regain access to their player account. You manage player accounts and their associated custom fields, roles and groups, either through these pages, or using calls to the service's API methods. For this video, we will look at managing player accounts using the Game Studio website. On the Services Parameters page, you have the option to enable a register button on the player page's home page, allowing your players to register for a player account themselves. But, if you are managing a company business app, you may decide that employees should register through you and then you create a player account for them. In that case, you would disable this option. If you are creating player accounts, then this is the section that contains the Create Player Account function. Let's start by clicking on the Manage Player Accounts button. This page gives you the option to create a new player account, manage the roles and groups that a player account can be a member of, and 2 types of searches. Okay, let's add a new player account. We start by clicking on the Add New button. The Add New Player Account page is shown. Most of the fields are self-explanatory, but we do need to explain the top 2 checkboxes. Developer Use Only. Ticking this box will create a developer test player account. To manipulate this type of player account through the Online Player Accounts API service, you would use a developer key. The pros of using this type of key are the calls do not count against your monthly API call count, though there is a monthly limit on the number of calls that can be made using a developer key, and if the service is not yet activated, i.e. you have not made a call to the API with a live API key, then calls using a developer key will also not activate it. The cons of using a developer account is you can only create 3. Once you have 3 test player accounts on the system, attempting to create another will result in an error. However, you can close a test player account and that will allow you create another in its place. Allow access to the disabled site. When the player page's site is disabled, it rejects all login attempts. However, if an account has this field enabled, then logins are allowed for that player account. A reason to allow an account to log in when it is in maintenance mode would be to test changes you may be making to the site's theme. The player account login is the unique name for this account. Apart from the bio text field, the other fields on this page are dynamic and appear based on the configuration of the player accounts. For example, this player account configuration stipulated that a password is required, and the player can recover a lost password using the security questions recovery method. If we had instead opted for the email password recovery method, then there would be a field to capture an external ID. If you are allowing your players to log in without a password, then no password fields would be shown. We will now complete the form and create a new test player account. We already have another 2 test accounts created, which we will use to demonstrate the search functions in just a few minutes. With the Register button enabled, a player has access to the player page's site's Add New Player form. Just like the Game Studio website version, the fields on the form are determined by the player account properties set in the service's parameters, e.g. whether to make logging in with a password a requirement. Player account roles and player account groups are covered in separate videos. To aid in explaining the custom search function later, we will create 2 roles and 2 groups. Search by login. Enter the login name of the player account you want to search for. If it is a developer account, you will need to check the Developer Use Only checkbox. When the player account is found, its details page is shown. From this page you can maintain the player account's profile, custom field values, its memberships to roles and groups, change its password and security questions, disable and enable the account and close it. Editing the player account profile. Search for a player account to open its details page. Click on Edit Profile. On this page you can edit the bio, change its right to log in when the player page's site is in maintenance mode and disabled, and upload a picture to be used as the player account's profile picture. The same form is available to a player on their player page's profile page. Maintain a player account's custom field values. Search for a player account to open its details page. Click on Maintain Custom Fields. On this page are listed all the custom fields that have been set up for this online player account service. You can edit a custom field's value, or remove an existing value. You can also use API calls to amend a custom field's value and search on it. Maintain a player account's role or group membership. Search for a player account to open its details page. Click on Maintain Roles. On this page you can add and remove the player account, to and from a role we created earlier. You can do the same with groups. The interface works in exactly the same way. Maintain a player account's security question choices and answers. Search for a player account to open its details page. Click on Manage Security Questions. On this page you can change the security questions and answers that this player account uses to recover their lost password. A player can manage their security questions through their player page's profile page. Player Account Custom Search. To begin, click on Custom Search. Enter values that you want to filter player accounts by, then click the Search button. A search results page is displayed, showing those player accounts matching the criteria up to a maximum of 300 rows. Click on a Manage button to open a player account's details page. Filter by the games or apps the player account has installed. By a role or group membership. By entering values to match those recorded against player account's custom fields. Next we can look at configuring the player page's site's theme and layout. The player page's website is a set of customizable pages that your players log in to review their installed games, and also to discover new games you have released. The site can be rebranded to reflect your game company's wordage, color palette and imagery. Replace title and label strings. Change the color scheme and page sections. Upload your own banner image to be displayed at the top of each page. And replace the site's default icons. First, let's look at the default look and feel of the player page's website by opening up the player page's site in another browser tab. The default theme is a white background with black font color. After explaining the player page's theme and layout, we will make a small change to the default theme by inverting its colors so that the background is black and the font color is white. There are several options to open the player page's theme and layout page. You can access it indirectly through the service's details page, or directly by clicking on Configure Player Pages. To apply your branding, this configuration page presents several buttons for the different areas of customization you can make to the player page's site. We will go through each in turn. Before we click on the Manage Site Theme button, note the top button that opens the player page's site in another browser tab. You could make changes to the site, then refresh the tab to see how the changes look. This page is divided into sections representing a page's various customizable theme elements. The first two sections relate to the name titles and labels used throughout the website. You replace the default name of a title or field by entering a new one into its adjacent alternative column. For example, If you are an application and not a game developer, then you may want to refer to apps instead of games, so you would change the page title game to app by entering app into the alternative page title box. Likewise, you may want to refer to users of your apps and not players. In that case, you can change the field label for player to user in that field label's alternative field label box. The next section, inverse nav bar, allows you to change the top bar on each page from the default black on white color scheme to white on black. Below the nav bar on each page is an area that holds a banner graphic. The section Player Pages Site Banner gives you the ability to upload an image that will be displayed in this area, and to remove an existing one. The site's home page can display a welcome message. A default title and message are created when you sign up for the service. These two strings can be overwritten with your own text, or not displayed at all, by removing the text completely from one or both text fields. The next section, called Table Header, Title Icons, has been broken into subsections. Each subsection represents a different page title and table header. For example, the game's icon will be used when a list of games is shown, and also in the page header displaying information about a game. An icon is displayed in a page title or table header to enhance the readability of a page. You can also upload an alternative image to replace the default. If you delete the alternative image, the default will be shown instead. The last section, Site Theme Colors, is again broken into subsections. One section for each customizable element of the site. You express a color's RGB mix using the standard 6-string hex code. To help you select the correct hex code, we have provided a link to an online color picker tool. Using the tool, identify the color you want to use, then copy and paste its hex code into a subsection's alternative color box. Finally, as an example on how to make changes to a player pages site, let's change the site's colors from white on black to black on white. First, let's inverse the nav bar. Now, let's change the site page's background color to black, and its foreground color, the font color, to white. If you have made all the changes you're going to make, you can click on the Save and Close button. However, if you are experimenting and may need to make further changes, use the Save button instead. This will record the amendments and keep you on this page. To see these changes, we can open the Player Pages site in another tab. There, the site's nav bar and page colors have been changed. We have shown how to change the theme of the Player Pages site. Next, we will look at how to configure the sections that are shown on a page. There are currently 3 types of player pages: Home, Game, and Store. We will look at each page type in turn, starting with the home page type. There are 4 areas that can be shown on a player's home page. The 4 areas that can be hidden or displayed are: player information. This appears on the left-hand side of the page. It displays the player's name, profile picture if one has been uploaded, and the total gamer score. This score is derived from adding up all the gamer scores from the games and apps they have installed, if gamer scores are supported. Gamer Score Leaderboard, a table that displays the top 10 total player gamer scores. If the logged-in player's score does not appear in the top 10, their position is appended to the bottom of the table. Player's Game List. This is a clickable table that appears below the Gamer Score Leaderboard table. It lists the games and apps a player has installed. If a game has a store link recorded on its details record, then that store's icon will be displayed on its row. You can click on a game's row to open a page detailing that game and the player's progress. Finally, Store Page. When enabled, a button to open the store page is shown. The store page lists your published games and apps and provides links to App Store pages and YouTube videos, if the links are present. The next page type is Game. Just like the home page, you can disable and enable sections to hide or show them. Player achievements and collectibles. Each displays a table showing the achievements and collectibles the player has acquired. Player scores. The game page can show two high score tables. You choose which tables to show by clicking on the Manage Score Tables button. This opens another page where, using drop-down lists, you can pick a score table to display. A list of pre-configured score tables will initially populate the drop-down lists. However, if you configure your own score tables, these will also be listed as options. Please see our video on how to set up and use the online High Scores Services Score Tables feature. Here is an example player page's site. The player's information section is on the left. The gamer scores leaderboard to its right and the list of installed games below it. The Browse Our Store button is shown. Like all these options, they are set on the home page type's parameter page. We will click on an installed game row to open its game page. On the game page we can see the game's description. Below this are the player's gamer score and the platforms this game is available on. In this case, the game is available only on Android, and links have been provided to its App Store page and a related YouTube video. The game's scores table is next followed by the player's list of achievements and collectibles. Our final page type is Store. The Store page is the player page's shop front for your published games and apps, and displays them in a list. To mark a game or app as published, you set its active flag found on the game's details page. Above the list of published games is the featured game area. You can display details about a single published game in this area, with covering text explaining why this game or app is your featured game. To choose the featured game, click the Manage Featured Game button. On this page you choose from your list of published games. You can then enter some text explaining why this game has been chosen. Note: for the Manage Featured Game button to be shown, at least one game or app must be published and have a store URL present in one of its supported platforms' records. Let's log into a player page's site and review a store page. Click on the Browse Our Store button to open this developer account's store page. This developer has configured a featured game. We can see the sales copy in this section, and there are also links to the game's App Store pages and YouTube videos. This game is available on two platforms, Android and iOS. Below we have the list of published developer games. Again, we show the platforms each game is available on, and, if supplied, links to the game's App Store page and any related YouTube videos. There are two methods to access the Recover Lost Password page. Answer a security question, or click a link sent to a verified email address. You can set up player accounts to provide both methods as means to recover a lost password. Simply tick the appropriate boxes on the online player accounts and player pages services parameters page, to enable both security questions and to capture and verify a working email address. Then, when a player creates their account through the player page's registration page, they will choose and submit answers to 3 security questions. They will also provide an email address that the system will then send a verification link to, that the player must click on to complete the creation of their player account. Now when the player clicks on the Forgot Your Password button, on the login page, they will be presented with the 2 recovery method options. Here's the steps using the security questions method. The player clicks the question button. They provide their login name and selects a question from the drop-down list and give the answer they have saved on the system. If the answer is correct, the password recovery page is opened and the player can enter a new password. And using the email method, the player clicks the link button. The player provides their verified email address. The system sends a message containing a recovery link. The player clicks on the link and it opens the password recovery page in their default browser, from where they can enter a new password. You can use this service as a standalone service or with our other services that it seamlessly integrates with, including high scores, achievements and collectibles tracking. And, if you use its developer key and do not create any live accounts, the service will be free to use, giving you the freedom to experiment and explore the service and its API. Then, when you are ready to publish your game or app, the online player accounts and player pages service is available for a flat monthly subscription of £7.50. You can find out more by visiting our website. Thank you for watching.